Well, welcome back, guys. This is the final segment of the Sunday edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. As I said on Friday, my weekday shows, Wednesday and Friday, right now it's 10 to 11, but we will be going in September. I don't have an effective date yet, but in September, we will be going from 10 to 12 to 10, or from 10 to 11 to 10 to 12. So we go into 2 hours during the week on Wednesdays and Fridays instead of 1 hour, because 1 hour just isn't enough. So I'll be doing an extra 2 hours in total during the week, so now I'll be doing a total of 6 hours. So you guys will have to put up with me for 6 hours during the week. And also, don't forget to check out Freedom Link Radio with Joe Joseph after my show. Okay? If there's a show that you're going to go listen to, go check it out. Mike Vail retired from Oracle, so now you have no excuse not to go check out Freedom Link Radio. Okay. In this final segment, Ed, is there anything new that you've come across since the book's been published? Any new information that you want to get out to the public?
Well, yeah, there's a couple of things that have come up. One is, in the book, I talk about there were some comments in the press that Mary Sherman's apartment had been burglarized. They said about 6 months before her murder. Her murder was July 21st, 1964. So 6 months before that would have put it around January of 1964, which is, of course, after the Kennedy assassination. Well, it turns out I finally got a hold of the police report on that burglary, and it turns out that the burglary is August 31st, 1963. That's the same day Judy and Lee drive up to the mental hospital. And Mary Sherman, that morning, she gets on an airplane and flies to London. Okay? And Lee and Judy go up to Jackson, Louisiana. And that night, somebody goes in and cleans out all the medical equipment from Mary Sherman's apartment. Now, what's going on in London? Well, right outside of London is Oxford, which is where the other linear particle accelerator is. And I think that's all pretty interesting stuff. I don't exactly know where it goes right now, but it's new, and it's on task for the people who want to know what's new since then. The other thing is I was looking at a memo that I've had for quite a while, but I just took a fresh look at it with fresh eyes. And the memo was from J. Edgar Hoover. Okay, and it was written on July 31st, 1964, 10 days after the Mary Sherman murder, and the subject of the memo was the Mary Sherman murder. Okay? And what had happened was the New Orleans Police Department said, hey, we could really use some help from the FBI on this. So the special agent in charge of the New Orleans office, he sent it up to Washington, D.C., and J. Edgar Hoover said, do not get involved in this murder. Okay? Do not, on pain of reprimand, do not assist the New Orleans Police Department in this thing. We consider it a local murder. We're not going to get involved, blah, blah, blah. Then on page 2 of the memo, there's a little note that sort of summarizes the basic requests that came in from New Orleans. And, of course, this stuff is all redacted, right? And they say, okay, this woman was stabbed 7 or 8 times, her arm was burned off, her rib cage was burned off, and somebody's name was found in her address book. And I look at this redaction, and it's only long enough to be somebody's last name. And it's about 6 or 7 letters long. And I said, I'd like to know who that name is, because it looks to me like they may have said Oswald's name was found in Mary Sherman's address book. Now, this is important.
Wow.
We now have 2 witnesses, one of whom is Judy, who personally stood in Mary Sherman's apartment with Lee Oswald, and the other is a woman by the name of Victoria Hawes, who saw Lee. Well, she knew Lee because she had gone to school with him. She saw Lee at Mary Sherman's apartment. And so we've got 2 eyewitnesses that connect them, and therefore the likelihood that that may be Oswald's name in there is very big. So I have requested from the FBI, I said, hey guys, I know you're busy, but all I want is one word. I want you to unredact this one word. And they told me, no, but if you want to appeal, you can appeal. And so I have appealed, and the news of that is on my website. as well. So those are things that I'm just let me tell you what the implication of that is. If that word is really Oswald's, as I think it may be, then that means that at the height of the Warren Commission investigation into the president's assassination, the head of the FBI knew that there was a connection between Oswald and Sherman, and he told his people not to investigate it. I think that would be pretty big news. So I think it's very important. I don't know what the word is yet, but that's why I'm asking the FBI. And
let me ask you this. Have you ever looked into yourself into the fact that Hoover knew and covered up what was going on? Because he was best friends. He was buddy-buddy with LBJ. And Johnson had his hands all over the assassination.
And Murchison and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I think Judy's book does a very good job of setting the stage for that. There are some other good books on it, but that's other people have done a better job of that. I have tried to stay to my little niche and not become a generalist on the JFK thing. Oh, the other thing we found, and this came from Judy's book, which I think is pretty interesting. I can cover in a couple of minutes. In Daley Plaza, right, the Texas School Book Depository building, they find a rifle in the building, right? Well, what kind of rifle do they find? Well, the Warren Commission tells us they found an Italian rifle called a Mannlicher Carcano. But the police on the scene, on the documents and affidavits they filed, said they found a Mauser, a 7.65 millimeter Mauser. Well, what's interesting about that, if you talk to a gun expert, they'll tell you that the Mauser made for the German army was an 8 millimeter Mauser, not a 7.65 millimeter Mauser. 7.65 was made for the government of Argentina. And that, in my opinion, is the rifle that Judy and Clay Shaw and Carlos Marcello and all them were importing into New Orleans on those Delta ships. And finding that rifle, why did they want to import the rifle into the United States? So they could use it in the Cuban operation without it being traced back to the United States. Finding that rifle in the Texas School Book Depository leads the trail to New Orleans.
Yeah, and if you know, and all this is also connected through Operation 40, which was part of the Get Castro program that they had going on.
But the operation to pay attention to is Mongoose, okay? Because
and that was run right out of here, out of South Florida.
Well, Chauncey Holt, who worked for the mob and the CIA, and he was Meyer Lansky's accountant and forger and everything else, he made the fake IDs that were used in Daley Plaza on November 22nd. All right, there's a video called Spooks, Hoods, and the Elite, okay, which is an interview with Chauncey 6 days before he dies, and he explains the whole thing about how he made it. He made Oswald's A.J. Heidel IDs, and he was, dig this, on August 21st or so, maybe August 19th, 63, Lee standing out in front of the International Trade Mart in New Orleans, handing out Fair Play for Cuba committees in front of television cameras, okay? He doesn't stay there very long. But at the moment he's doing that, Chauncey is inside the International Trade Mart having a meeting with Clay Shaw's boss, Lloyd Cobb. All right, now you got Meyer Lansky's accountant meeting with Clay Shaw's boss while Lee Oswald is standing out in front handing out Fair Play for Cuba committee flyers in front of television cameras.
Yeah.
Something's wrong.
and Clay Shaw, so people know, Garrison tried proving Shaw was a CIA agent, and he was a CIA agent, and Shaw actually worked for the intelligence division during World War II. He was, that was called the OSS back then, and he worked in Europe under Lord Rothschild. Okay? That's who controlled him during World War II when he worked for the intelligence services. Because I looked into a lot of this. Shaw is a spook through and through.
Right.
And don't you find it interesting how he died years later? What did he die of, Ed? Cancer.
Well, I was told he died of cancer, yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
And he died in Oshner's hospital.
Yep. And Ruby died of cancer. All these people, they had a weaponized form of cancer, and all these witnesses suddenly start dropping dead of cancer.
Well, including Lee's uncle. But Ruby, in as a point in case, Ruby died 28 days after his cancer was diagnosed, which is awfully fast. That happens to be the same number of days that it took to kill the prisoner up in the mental hospital in Jackson, Louisiana.
Oh, yeah, they killed him. He was talking about it. Look what he said, Ed. He said the form of government that has taken over is completely different, and, blah, blah, blah. The forces that may put me in my position will never let me, the truth be known.
Well, as I said on page 1 of my book, you've been lied to with great conviction for a long time, and those lies are going to continue. So all you can do is educate yourself by reading these books.
Ed, thank you so much for coming on the show, and thank you for writing the book. Guys, check out Ed's website, drmarysmonkey.com. I'm going to have a link to it on the front of federaljack.com. Thank you guys for listening. Stay tuned. Joe Joseph is up next. I'll see you guys on Wednesday.